Alright guys, so I'm starting to think that Belal Muhammad's next opponent is going to be Kamaru Usman. I feel like it was supposed to be Shavkat. They were supposed to fight maybe in October. That was a little bit too soon for Belal, but I feel like now the UFC is going to book Kamaru Usman versus Belal Muhammad in December. And the main reason why I'm starting to think that this fight is going to happen next is because Kamaru Usman has made some posts on his Instagram kind of alluding to the fact that he's back in training camp. But in the caption of two of his posts, well, the first one he's saying, NU, hashtag NU. And then in another post, that was like 2 days ago, he's saying NU again. Now, if you're, getting ready for a fight and you're just training, I mean, sure, you could fight a contender, and then if you get that win, then the UFC might promise you a title shot, which could be an option. But I feel like it's more reasonable to assume that Kamaru Usman is going into a title shot by reclaiming NU, or he knows that whoever he's fighting is going to be an easy fight, and that won't be the case, because if he's not fighting Belal, he's most likely fighting Shavkat Rakhmonov, or he's fighting JDM. Or maybe he could be fighting for an interim title, but that would make no sense considering that Belal fought recently and he has no reason to not fight again, potentially in December or January, which would be too short of a time to create an interim title because he hasn't been out for that long. But another reason why I feel like this fight might happen instead of the Shavkat fight is because they're both managed by Ali Abdelaziz. And Abdallah has he has a really good relationship with Dana White. He's in contact with him. You can see him taking a bunch of pictures. And he always manages to get his fighters the best fights possible. And given the fact that he manages both Kamaru Usman and Belal Muhammad, I feel like he's sort of been kind of orchestrating some of their beef. Like, for example, I feel like he's telling Belal to build a fight with Kamaru, but at the same time get some credibility with the fans by constantly mentioning Shavkat's name, even though you know you're not going to fight him. Like, here are some examples of Belal building a potential fight with Kamaru Usman.
Public service announcements. The Pound for Pound podcast sucks. Like I said, I was on there. Usman was terrible at talking. He was terrible at fighting. I got embarrassed a little bit on both ends. I was speaking and fighting. Sorry, Cejudo. I do like you, though. Shavkat, see you soon, boy.
Kamaru's in the locker room, lacing up his worn-out gloves, thinking about that golden belt and all his dreams of love. He's lost 3 fights in a row. His knees are giving in.
Everybody wants a piece of you. Everybody wants the chance to fight Belal Muhammad.
It's funny, right? Because before none of them knew who I was, but now they're all talking, right? Usman sucks. He's on a 3-fight losing streak. Conor's cooked out of his head on like a 10-fight losing streak. Shavkat's the only one that really makes sense. But even still, it's like you fought a year ago and you beat Wonder Boy, who's on a losing streak himself. So there's not really a lot of guys that deserve it. You never know. Dana White probably gives Kobe Covington another shot, right?
I don't think so.
Maybe next time. Maybe the 5th time's the charm.
And yeah, most of the talk has been about Belal Muhammad kind of going back and forth with Kamaru Usman, and it seems like they're building up a fight, and I feel like this is the direction that the UFC is going in. I think that in December, we're going to see Kamaru Usman take on Belal Muhammad for a chance to get his belt back, and we've seen fighters get title shots off losing streak before, or coming off losses before. And in the last pay-per-view, I mean, we just saw Khalil Roundtree, who's number 8, get a title shot over Magomed Ankalaev. So I feel like we could see something similar where a guy like Kamaru Usman coming off one fluke loss in the second Leon Edwards fight, because we saw Belal Muhammad do the same exact thing to Leon, except Herb Dean didn't separate them in the 5th round while Kamaru Usman was controlling him. And then Usman loses a trilogy to Leon Edwards, and to be honest, that fight is arguably 1 round away from being a draw. In my opinion, watching live, I thought that Kamaru Usman did win 2 rounds, which would have made that fight a draw. And then after that, Kamaru Usman saves a UFC card by stepping up on 10 days' notice and flying across the world to take on Khamzat Chimaev. And in my opinion, that fight was actually a draw. I gave rounds 2 and 3 to Kamaru Usman. Round 1, you could give it 10-8 to Khamzat. But either way, I feel like that fight's a draw, and if it was 5 rounds, I think that Kamaru Usman would have won. And the last reason why I think that this fight is happening in December is because recently on Joe Rogan's podcast, him and Dean Thomas, arguably UFC Shields, they were talking about how Kamaru Usman deserves that fight.
Who do you think they give him next?
I think they give him Kamaru.
That's what
the
I
big
thought,
money
too. That's
fight.
what I
It's
thought.
the smart fight, and I think
Shavkat
they
they're
owe.
talking about, too.
But they owe Kamaru for Kamaru taking Hamzat on 10 days' notice,
Right.
And also in a 3-rounder instead of a 5 when he won the 3rd,
Right, exactly.
So he's got the L, which is if he's going 5 rounds, maybe he doesn't get it.
Yeah, I think he
Right.
does. I think he doesn't get that.
On earth.
He
I
had
say
to-
you got to give it to Kamaru because I think Kamaru earned it from that alone.
He had to weather that fucking storm of a first round.
Yeah.
And at the time of this recording, a couple hours ago, Chael Sonnen talked about how he thinks that the next fight in the welterweight division is going to be Belal Muhammad versus Kamaru Usman. So I feel like this is going to happen in December. I honestly don't have a problem with it. Kamaru Usman is honestly like my favorite fighter in the UFC. But even that aside, I feel like his last 2 fights, they were arguably not losses and they were arguably draws. So I don't think we should look at it as, oh, he's coming off 3 losses. It's 3 losses. One of them was a fluke, which he was dominating in. Then the other 2 fights are razor close fights that could have been 1 round away from a draw. And the last fight should have been a draw, but it was a bad scorecard. But yeah, I think this is a good fight. I like this fight for December. I think you could put Shavkat versus JDM on there and make Shavkat undeniable. And then the winner of both fights can fight each other in 2025. But yeah, I think Kamaru Usman can definitely beat Belal Muhammad. This is a close competitive fight, but we'll see what happens. I'm just hoping the UFC actually announces it. We'll see if it goes through. If it doesn't happen, then I think that Kamaru Usman is most likely going to fight Jack Della Maddalena in December or maybe early 2025. And Belal Muhammad is probably going to fight Shavkat Rakhmonov in December because currently we don't have a pay-per-view for that. And apparently Sean Strickland is saying that he's going to fight Dricus du Plessis in January. Pereira is not going to turn around. Merab is not going to fight in December. And du Plessis, he's fighting in January. Ilya and Max are going to be banged up. Islam Makhachev is not fighting this year again. So this has to be a welterweight title fight. And I just feel like it's going to be Belal Muhammad versus Kamaru Usman. But let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think this fight should happen? Do you think it's going to happen? And do you think that it makes sense? But thank you guys for watching. God bless. And make sure you guys tune in tomorrow for my predictions on the Brandon Royval versus Tatsuro Taira fight card.